I'm Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me?
Greetings, everyone, Earthlings and all. Welcome to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea. We're here on WLTKDB.com and on all the socials under WLTKDB. That's all I type in the search and you'll find us there. I hope you take some time and go through the website. There are a ton of shows on this station and a lot of great content each day of the week, Monday through Friday. So if you like my show, you're going to like the other shows as well. So please check them out. There's a couple of new shows on the station. One upcoming, one's already started, Monday Morning Monsters with Barnaby Jones. Hopefully you can check that out. He talks about cryptids and Bigfoot, of course, kind of the head cryptid, I guess. And then we've got medium Kenneth Drake coming on, Voices of the Dead. It's going to be mid-July, so be on the lookout for that show as well. And just check out all the other shows. If you have only seen a few of mine, well, you can catch up on all the prior episodes at WLTKDB.com, as well as the other shows. So there's a ton of content. We're on episode 70 here tonight. Yahoo! And we got a couple people checking in. Feel free to comment, throw in questions whenever. We'll try and get to them. A good friend, William Becker, says hello. And by the way, I'll be on Metaphysical Insights William show this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific. Just go to Facebook and look up Simply Spooky, and you'll find it there. So I look forward to talking with William. We always have a great time. And big shout out to Corey. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching. So I got a bunch of great shows coming up. But first, I want to take a second and thank Todd Bates, station owner here, host of Haunted Voices. He's on the ones and twos in the background, keeping this ship going. So big thanks to Todd, and then also to my good friend and producer, Michael Beers. Big shout out to him as well. If you like the music in the intro, that's my band Steady Rock Cosmonaut, and that's off our album The Sleeper Awakens. So if you want to listen to more of weird spaced out reggae stuff, go to steadyrockcosmonaut.com or just look us up on any streaming service. You'll find us. And I've got a couple of summer ghost walks coming up. I'm excited about those. They're going to be later at night. They're normally 7 to 10, but we're going 8 to 11 here in the summer. Up here in Washington. As some of you know, it sunsets pretty late here. And we've got a couple of special investigations coming up as well. I had a really good one last Saturday at the Walker Ames house here in Port Gamble, and had a fair amount of activity going on. Some people heard who we call the growler. Heard somebody growling. We all heard some footsteps that seemed to have no body attached to them. Heard on multiple floors. So that was a really cool experience too. And of course, October 1st and 2nd, I'll be down in Anaheim speaking at the OC Paracon. If you don't have your tickets yet, go to ocparacon.com. It's the first in person. They did a virtual one last year, but it's the first ghost conference of its kind down in Anaheim area. So really stoked to meet a bunch of new people and be speaking down there. So ocparacon.com, guys. And then, of course, the conference here in Port Gamble is coming up November 11th through the 13th. And I think it's the 13th annual, lucky number 13. And speaker and class applications and vendor applications are all online at portgamble.com. So be sure you check that out. That's where you can also get tickets. General admission and investigation tickets are on sale, all at portgamble.com. Just go to the events tab and you'll see Ghost Conference there. If you want information on the ghost walks and special investigations, or to book a psychic reading, go right here, portgambleparanormal.com, and you can get all the details there. So upcoming shows, very excited for tonight, and we'll get to our special guest, Mr. Randall Nickerson, here just shortly. Coming up next week was a pre-recorded show, but I'll be live commenting, and it's with astrologer and medium Jessica Linato out of the Bay Area. We had a great conversation. I can't wait to share it. And then the week after that, it's, by the way, it's every Tuesday night. The week after that, I've got cast members from the Alaskan Killer Bigfoot show that was on Discovery, but's moved over to Travel Channel now. So you can watch the entire first season on Travel Channel if you didn't have Discovery Plus before. So we have two of the cast members that I've had on before, along with historian Jeff Davis, good friend of the show. And they're also bringing on Ash from that show. So we're getting another cast member to come on and talk about their wild experience up there in Portlock, Alaska. The week after that, I've got good friend and great friend of the show, psychic medium and author, and Kasha Amenti is coming on the 19th. And then finishing off the month of July, I've got an author coming on. Very excited to talk to. She's been at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference before. Miss Tracy Shearer is going to be coming on for the last week in July. And then, folks, I am taking August off. So there'll probably be some replays going on there. We've got a couple of people checking in. Oh, hey, Mike. Thanks for joining in and watching. My producer, Mike Beers. And Corey's ready for the Bigfoot show. Yeah, it'll be fun. Those guys were great last time. Looking forward to having them all on again. So tonight, very special guest. Very many thanks for him cutting out time to come on my show. He's got an interesting film that has come out on May 20th of this year, Ariel Phenomenon. And if you guys don't know about this, you've got to go check out this film and go to arielphenomenon.com. We'll put that up throughout the show, and I'll have that on my show page, facebook.com/Paranormal Pete Show. I'll put that on there so everyone can go check out the trailer and then support and get the movie. So tonight we've got Randall Nickerson coming on. He's been working in the film industry since 1987, first as a stage and film actor before transitioning into cinematography and ultimately into directing into 2001. After several short documentaries, Nickerson made the leap to his first feature-length film, Ariel Phenomenon. He's also an accomplished photographer. You can purchase original prints on his photography website, Randall Nickerson Photography. And he's across all the socials, and you can find out everything about this movie on all the socials by typing in your search Ariel Phenomenon. Without further ado, let's bring Mr. Randall Nickerson on the show.
Thanks, Pete.
Hey, Randall.
Great introduction. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Checks in the mail, right? No, just kidding. Thanks for carving out some time and coming on to talk about your new film, Ariel Phenomenon. And that came out May 20th, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it, a big relief when it was finally released? Was it a big weight lifted off your shoulders, or were you just even more excited?
No, it was a big relief. But we still haven't really hit the world market yet. So financially, not so much of a relief. Just a lot of money owed. So yeah, no, but it was after working on it for 14 years, it was I didn't know what to do with myself for a little while.
Yeah, that is a long time. What kind of, normally I think just human nature, you get tired of things, right? And, you naturally want to move to the next thing. What kept you going on this? What was it that really what was the driving force?
The credibility of the witnesses. That was definitely a very something I couldn't ignore at all, and that kept me going, was supporting the witnesses. Like, I can't just do something small here. This required a lot more time, effort, and also the nature and the characters that are in the movie. You had a BBC reporter, war reporter, and then you have Dr. John Mack from Harvard University that interviewed these children that witnessed this craft. And these creatures come out of it. I mean, it's a pretty wild story. And
Yeah, let's
But
go.
it's good.
Let's
I mean, it's you know, I really believe that happened. It's just everybody around that time and area, and yeah, over time, it's just
yeah. Well, before I have you kind of talk about the
sure.
incident, if it happened, let's say this year, or if it had happened 2018, 2016, I mean, do you think it would be a different outcome as far as the witnesses to the experience? Do you think it would have been a different outcome, like as far as people believing them? What do you think?
I don't know if we're there yet. I think we may be. I'm not sure. It was tough enough back in the 90s for sure. 94 is when this
Mhm.
incident happened. It's a good question. I mean, a lot of circumstances sort of came together at one moment that
Yeah.
made the story survive because it was recorded. You know what I mean? The witnesses were interviewed, and it was really well documented at the time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the incident. And you've been had your heart in this thing for so long, so you're going to tell it a lot better than I am. Tell us, for those who don't know what it is, what is the incident that you have made this film about?
It happened in 1994 in September on the 16th in Zimbabwe, which is just north of South Africa, uh, in a rural town. There was this primary school. And the report initially, which came from the BBC reporter, were that 62 school children had witnessed this silver object in the sky first. Then they saw it settle down near the border of the playground. And their playground was like these huge trees that were laid down, and you couldn't go past those logs, and because of the concern for snakes and baboons, and it's Africa, so it's a very
Right.
different type, different.
Everything there is meant to kill you.
Everything's big, and yeah, you can get in a lot of trouble fast. Uh, so they watched this object for some time, and then they saw these creatures come out of it, and one of them, at least one of them, um, approached the school children who were gathered. Not all of them, but a large group were gathered at the edge of the playground at that point to look at it because it was shining silver. They'd never seen anything like it before, and um, yeah, it made sounds. It made scared a lot of the kids, and also had, it's a mixture between fear and curiosity is the best way they've put it. Um, and then there was some kind of contact between this creature and these students. Not all of them, but the ones that were closest to it. And then they ran screaming into the teacher's room, about 100 kids. And
Was
then
there any adults out there at the time?
there was a woman in the tuck shop when
Okay.
this was going on, which is it's like a candy store on the playground, but it was
Okay.
it was a little shack, and it's still there. But it faced toward the inside of the playground, like where she was sitting, or she couldn't see
Okay.
from that perspective what was going on. She could hear the commotion. She did hear the commotion, and she did report later that she heard some kind of whistling sound. That's on audio. So anyway, there was another adult earlier on the playground. That's a whole nother story that uh, couldn't put in the. Well, there's so many characters in this movie that I had to be very selective on who I put in due to time,
Mm-hmm.
because we already had so many main characters. But the great part is it's all first person.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that I find
No
is
narration.
amazing. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
hard film to make. When you try
Yeah.
to do a film without narration, that's makes everything much more difficult. But
Yeah, and to have all those firsthand accounts, the
yeah,
people that were there, to be able to refer to them and to talk to them over this period of time. So they saw some of, lot of the kids, they saw this figure, and what was communicated to some of the students?
That's in the film. It's several of the kids got through mind to mind communication, and it's really interesting the way they describe that because they have no idea what that was as children.
Right.
Talk about, oh, it came into my conscience, or they didn't know the words about things that we know in the Western world here, particularly at that time. But there were images about what we were doing to our own planet.
So, do you think, I'll just throw this out there, do you think this beings maybe, if, uh, I wish there was some way to really validate all of that. Do you think that maybe they have something to do with our planet? What's your take on why they would have come there?
I really don't know. I really don't. Um, it's all speculation, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, just judging from other people I've met during this film project, it's pretty widespread anyway, that these people have experiences and all over the world. And there is a similar message in general that is communicated, but it's not like an answer, that they're trying to tell us what to do. They're just sort of letting us know. That's what it appears to be.
Yeah.
What their relationship with us is, I think we're trying to figure that out finally now. In the last several years, there's been
Yeah.
some very, very good developments about, well, let's find out. What are they up to? Who are they? What is their end game?
Yeah.
Saying
Yeah,
that.
it's interesting. They, mentioned, incidents all over the world, experiences with that similar sort of communication of, hey, you're messing up the planet. I kind of makes me wonder if, maybe their planet went through the same sort of thing before. Uh
Yeah,
wherever they're from, wherever that may be, maybe they're trying to help us.
maybe they've seen other, planets and other solar systems go through this.
Yeah,
Not even them, but if they're cruising around, this is theoretical, but if they're cruising around the galaxy, I'm sure this isn't the first planet they've found that has life.
right. It
God
can't
only.
be. It couldn't be. It just seems like it wouldn't be. Um, so I mean, just I mean, this whole incident is fascinating just for the sheer amount of witnesses there were. And when you started working on this project, did you, in the early days of the film, um, I mean, was it hard to gather all of the footage that was taken at the time? Kind of what was that process like? Was it really challenging to gather the footage, or was it something you were easily accessible? How'd that go for you?
It was tough. There was I all I had was Dr. John Mack's footage, and that was really great footage. But I was just like, when I viewed it all, I'm like, how am I going to make a movie with this? Really. And I'm like, there's a lot I don't understand. Some of the language terminology they used in Southern Africa and Zimbabwe, I didn't understand. And then I just started to search for the school. Why don't I just find the school and talk to those people? And in the beginning, I wasn't totally convinced. You know, um, it was definitely sparked my curiosity because of the truth that comes out of those kids' eyes and their mouths and their body language, etc. And then once I found the school, then it became, oh my gosh, like I can find these people. Then I heard about more footage, collected that footage. Then, years over, I'm still getting things. I'm still getting photographs. I'm still getting, I think I've got every piece of footage, but it took about 12 years to get it all because, people had it, but it was all over the world. It wasn't in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Because of the political situation over there and the chaos that country's been in for a long time. Most people had moved. So that was a challenge. Tracking people down I became more of a not a filmmaker, but an investigative journalist. Really. That's exactly what that was my role for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges, kind of putting that hat on? Because you wore pretty much every hat for this film. So adding that to the list, like what was, do you have like a crazy story of trying to track someone down? Like, anything weird that happened? Or,
Uh,
I kind of picture you with an Indiana Jones hat on, like you're going to like find these people, any crazy stories from
oh,
that
I did
time?
have an Indiana Jones hat. It
Nice.
wasn't quite the same, but it was a cowboy hat that I got in South Africa. I was like, yeah, this is one of those journeys because it wasn't exactly safe.
Yeah.
What I was doing because I stopped flying around. I got in the car and started driving around Africa, and that I would it's a different deal.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, just from the natural environment, it's dangerous, but going into political situations and all that kind of stuff. I mean, did you have kind of like a local team that, kind of help you get around places? How'd that work?
Well, I had a local her name was Nikki Carter, and she helped me. Yeah, she was kind of an advisor, but I kind of took off on my own and tracked down like a lot of the witnesses that were in Africa, and I just drove there. Um, I mean, I did this for 9.5 months first time. Second time I went, it was 3 months, and but it was I was living there, 22
Yeah.
days sleeping in my car. I had all the statistics. I'm like, wow, man. Anyway, but it was. I remember getting to Africa and being brought to a B&B, and it was the first time I landed there, and everybody's warning me on the plane about how dangerous it is there. I'm like, well, okay. I thought I prepared for all this. There was a State Department warning at the time not to go into the country, and into Zimbabwe. And then I get on the ground, and they take me. Like a car picks me up. They tell me, don't leave your luggage at all because it'll be stolen.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that's okay. And then I get to the place I'm staying, this B&B, and it's surrounded by a 12-foot wall with razor wire on top. And that was I was like, okay. And then there's a guy in front of it with like an M4 machine gun.
Holy not messing around, okay.
Not messing around, like, where am I?
Yeah.
I just remember I'll never forget that night, those few nights in that place, because I moved really quickly. This was in Johannesburg. It's one of the dangerous cities in the country, I mean, in the world. And yeah, it was like, okay, I either go home or I
Just
buck up and do it.
just
And
start going. Yeah.
I was scared. I didn't know if I would make it through it, but I knew I was dedicated to the story. And anyway, that's one. There's so many stories, man. Can't even tell you, but
That's
yeah, it's a
crazy.
wake-up call in Africa. When you're on the ground living there, it's a different experience. I mean, going on
Sure.
vacation there is interesting and cool, but they protect you. When you're off on your own, oh, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So, but
Gosh.
I got to into Zimbabwe and got to the school, you know, just asking. There were 3 teachers that were still working there at the time, so that was a gold mine. And then I realized
Yeah.
all the kids, I could track them down, and at the same time, I'm collecting all their drawings that they made, and that took a long time just to collect them all.
Yeah.
So it was a big journey, lot of different. That's why it took so long. There were so many different parts of it.
Well, and you had to like, make sure you came out alive too, so you can
That is true.
actually share the story.
Really glad that happened.
Did you
Yeah.
have I'm curious now, did you have any wild animal encounters?
Oh yeah.
What's like your best one?
Oh man. I don't know. I was chased by probably 10 or 11 elephants. Anyway, it's at different times.
Holy
Oh, they'll
smokes.
come. It's always the young males, and they'll, you go by and you're like, oh, cool, elephant. And then the next thing you know, you're looking in your mirror and they're tearing after you. It's the funniest thing because you think of, the biggest
Yeah.
I ever had chase me was a dog. You're looking in your rearview mirror. I've got video and pictures of this. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I think that one of the most, I mean, I had encounters with lions and a white lion at night. That was scary because I was parked.
Whoa.
Well, not everything stays in enclosures, unfortunately. You know, in these game reserves, things get
Yeah.
out,
Sure.
particularly the cats, leopards, and stuff. But yeah. And then there was a honey badger. I went camping and kind of did it really grassroots, you know, camping and youth hostels and wherever.
Yeah.
Occasionally get a B&B, but yeah, I went camping and there was a honey badger came out. I'm sitting right at the edge of right at the screen of my tent, and he's standing right there, just looking right in my eyes. We're both looking at each other like, all right, is he coming in or what? Because that was this. What am I gonna do?
Yeah,
That's just
exactly.
crazy. Uh, they're known. They're just like they're crazy.
Yeah, and they'll just attack, I think, anything because
Anything,
they're kind
lions, they
yeah.
don't care. So I was with a native. Oh gosh, he was a Khoisan, one of the Bushmen, and
Okay.
he had taken me out there, and because I wanted to see what it was like out camping in the bush. And he woke me up in the morning. He said, "You know what? You had a honey badger out here last night. Very, very dangerous. Very dangerous."
You're like, "Yeah. Yeah, I know."
Oh, I know. Yeah. He scolded me several times. He's like, "You're not playing by the rules. You need to play by the rules. One of the rules is when you go to sleep at night or anytime you're in the tent, you zip up. You always zip up so they can't look in.
Ah, because if they can see you, then they're more curious.
They can smell you, but if they can see and smell you, likely they're coming in." And I had that screen like wide open.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Oh, well, next time.
you should have told your guide, "Oh, yeah, his name's Roger. We had a good conversation last night."
I told him to come see you.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's just
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, knock on wood, right? You know, every
Yeah.
time you have an experience like that, knock on wood.
They're
Um,
beautiful experiences too. You never forget them, you know, and
they may, and it all goes makes you who you are, right?
yep.
You know, and if you just look at things that way, I found over the years, you know, that was pretty crazy and scary or horrible, but hey, it makes me who I am today, right?
True. That's true.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick station break here on WLTKDB. We're here with Randall Nickerson. We're talking about Ariel Phenomenon. And guys, go to arielphenomenon.com. And congrats for your first full-length feature
Thank
film as
you.
well. That's really cool. And all those years and dedication. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk more about the film
Sure.
and kind of what it all means. And then I'm going to ask if you got any ghost stories, maybe from your travels and or just from your home, wherever. But we're here on WLTKDB. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, on the Paranormal Pete Show with special guest Randall Nickerson. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching.
Brandon Wainwright, author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, and owner of Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, offers Reiki as well as color and sound modalities to anyone seeking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. While color and sound healing, a technique that brings balance and health to one's chakras and body, must be provided in person. Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, can be given in person or equally effectively from a distance. For more information or to make an appointment for a session, please visit TysonsGiftHealing.com. That's TysonsGiftHealing.com.
All right, welcome back to the Paranormal Pete Show. We're here with special guest Randall Nickerson, and we're talking about Ariel Phenomenon, feature film that came out May 20th, and you can watch the movie. You can get it at arielphenomenon.com, and that's ARIEL phenomenon.com. And before the break, Randall is kindly sharing some of his expedition stories and close encounters of the animal kind. But excuse me, I wanted to talk about the children in this involved in this incident. And can you tell us a little bit about kind of summarize, I guess, kind of what happened to them after the incident? There was all the BBC interviews, and then Dr. Mack was interviewing. After all of that kind of stopped, what did you find out? What did the kids kind of go through after that? Was it just kind of shoved under the carpet? What kind of happened with them?
Yeah, they got interviewed a lot. I think it's 6 or 7 different organizations, and I think they got left in the cold. To be honest with you, they were left to their parents basically, and their parents' belief with it. A lot of them, and I understand, they were upset that the media and everybody just showed up and got everything they could from them and then took off, and nobody really helped them process it. Because I think partly was you did have people that believed them and people that didn't believe them. So each individual family, I found, had their own struggle depending on how the parents treated it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's actually pretty unique, and not unique, but complex, how each individual chose to deal with it.
Right, because they had to do their own processing of the event, and in the ghost field, that part of the paranormal, you see that a lot with kids exhibiting psychic abilities, mediumship abilities, and it depends on how the parents handle it, and if the kids are left to their own devices or if they have a support system. So before my next question, just got a lot of people chiming in here. Just wanted to say hello. Mike says, welcome to the show, Randall. Good to see you again. Interesting. Yeah, Michael Acciana, good friend of the show. Evening. You got Linda, good friend of the show. Hello. And Michael had said, oh, great story. Guessing about your honey badger story. And it's another question here. Randall, did you run into any issues with the country or local governments concerning you telling the story so many years later? If so, how did you overcome that obstacle?
Good question. We actually were shooting in Great Zimbabwe at one time, and the Zimbabwe Special Forces showed up. I was terrified because I was like, oh my God, they're going to confiscate all my gear. I had like $40,000, $50,000 worth of gear in my trunk. So we had a meeting because we were shooting there without a permit. I didn't realize we needed a permit for that. And so, yeah, I had a couple of run-ins. That was a particularly disturbing one for me, my crew, and Emily. I mean, when we went, I mean, they made us stay there. We were not going to stay there, but they made us stay at the location, and we barricaded every single door.
Oh man,
every single window, because we were positive they're coming in and they're going to take our stuff. That didn't happen, but that's 3 Americans over in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. And then being followed by the Zimbabwean CIO, which is their intelligence service over there, because I was an American coming into a country that was in political upheaval at the time, and they were kicking out Western journalists. And I had camera gear, and even that separated into different bags and everything else. You do whatever you can to
walk through the paces.
Basically,
yeah.
Only that country's in a lot of disarray, and it's a beautiful country with beautiful people in it. Real sweet people. And it's just, when you see governments that are that tyrannical,
Yeah.
and it's just a few people, it's just a few people that run that show. But so we had a few of those. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying those are obstacles to overcome, and just trying to set up and shoot was probably a challenge, right? Actually getting your gear out and assembling it,
yeah,
shooting, and then probably having to quickly break it down and move to the next location. Is that kind of what you guys had to do?
pretty much. I mean, you come up with speed ways to do that very quickly
Yeah,
because you just don't know who's coming down the street. And I definitely found out that, boy, when you get a lot of camera gear, you become a target. That's just the truth over there.
yeah,
Especially when you're using big lenses or anything like that, you stand out. You know, I guess that's anywhere, but I found it more so there.
yeah.
Um,
Incredible.
more so in South Africa, to be honest with you, not so much in Zimbabwe. But
Yeah. Well, that's pretty dangerous area still. Um,
true.
so going back to the kids, what I wanted to ask was, you spent all this time tracking them down over the years, and finding different ways to track them down. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to connect with these people now that they're a little bit older, and to hear their story that, I'm betting is the same as the story they had when they were children. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to connect with them and hear their story.
Yeah, because it was fascinating because I had no idea what they were going to say. You know, I
Hmm.
didn't assume that this happened or whatever. I had a lot of archival interviews, and person after person that I interviewed said yes, it happened. And I remember the first one I interviewed was his name was Luke, and yeah, he I mean, just told me what he had seen and what had happened, and then it just yeah. I mean, it's again like when you're on a story and you're like, oh yeah, no, there's more to the story. There's way more to this story than I even thought of, and then I move on to somebody else, and they say, yeah, no, this definitely happened. What was really interesting to me was there was footage that I had of certain children that no one had ever seen, and I interviewed some of those children. They could not know. There was no way they had not seen their own interview as children,
Yeah.
but they told exactly the same story. Exactly. 28
Yeah.
years. Um,
It's got to be kind of burned into their
it is.
their memories. How could it, something like that, how could it not? As they were telling you stories, and each person you went and talked to, um I'm sure it was emotional at times.
Yes.
Did it seem like that the witnesses, did they seem relieved knowing there's someone out there searching for the truth here? There's someone out here um that cares. Did you get a sense of, like, they just felt relieved, any
I
what'd
did.
you get? Yeah.
I mean, it varied. I definitely did get that, and really appreciated that the comments people made. That thank you for telling our story because nobody has really. Um, and and then you had others that would talk with me in person but did not want to go on camera. You know, um, for many different reasons,
Yeah.
which I understand. I understand.
Sure.
Um, um, and that actually motivated me more. It's like, oh my God, there's so many more people that saw this, know about this, but yet they are too scared to go into the media because of how media has handled this stuff.
Right, and then what's gonna happen to them after, when other people see it, Yeah, it's really cool that you gave those people, I think, an outlet, and I know it had to have helped some of them. And so that's really cool. Mike's got another one here. He says, when you met in McMinnville, Oregon, you were deep into the journey. And did you think it would take this long to complete? Also, I'm sure you formed friendships along the way. Do you still have any communication with those you interviewed on a friend-to-friend basis? Great question.
Yes, it took way longer than I could have ever imagined. I got sidetracked with a couple business things in Hollywood, and then a lot of these people are my friends still. You don't spend that kind of time together and just say, "See you later."
That's what happened to him before.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to, they had told me that, and I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy, because they were really upset what happened, and I don't blame them when they were kids.
Yeah.
I always tell them, like, but you know what? If those media wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to tell your story. So it's a catch-22, but I still do nobody helped them.
Yeah.
Nobody helped them process it, because nobody knew what to do. That's the real truth. Nobody knew how do you deal with alien? I mean,
yeah, hope. Yeah, I mean, thinking myself, it's like, yeah, well, how would I have handled seeing what they witnessed, an unidentified flying object in the sky first, and then it comes down and lands right at right at the edge of the property there. I mean, I honestly don't know how I'd handle it. I'd be curious, but I'd probably be scared to hell.
One of the witnesses said, we just needed hugs. We needed hugs. And that for some reason really strikes me.
Yeah.
Is it that simple? Maybe it is.
Yeah, it's that simple for everybody on a core basis, I think. And gosh, it's just incredible that what they all had to go through. The lady who in the film who came back to the school and walked around as you were there with her, what were you seeing from her visiting that site again?
Anxiety, a lot of journal writing. She did a lot of painting. It was a profound experience for her to go back there, and the other woman she was with. I mean, that was a first time either one of them had been back to that school. So it brought up a lot.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, just from the human aspect of all of this. You mentioned earlier that when you started this, you weren't sure that you believed everything about it. That you sounded like you were maybe somewhat skeptical about the whole thing. What was it that overall would you say that changed your mind about your belief in the story?
Well, the reason I was skeptical, and it was I only had one piece of footage. You know what I mean? I only had one source of footage.
Mm-hmm.
Once I found corroborating archival, that changed my mind. That sort of, it was a journey.
Yeah.
And then when I started to meet the actual people and interview the actual people as adults, then I was convinced.
Right.
And I was still going after the people. Like, please, I was looking for people like, all right, who doesn't believe this happened? I want to talk to that person. And what do they think happened? So I did.
Yeah.
I talked to quite a few people, astronomers, and I had people laugh at me. It's just, and to get their opinion, because they just thought it can't even be possible. That's actually what really happened. But that's what you run into is just people that believe a certain thing and they can't even open their minds to the fact that they could be wrong.
And those kind of people, they have to experience themselves before they even are able to open their mind. And so it's hard that's a hard sell, and that,
But I took their opinions and I took their what they thought, and then I compared it to what I heard from everybody else who was actually there. Because none of the critique, except for one teacher, he thought the kids had made it up. So I found him and re-interviewed him, and he had changed his mind. I wish he didn't. Like, oh, come on. I want to hear it.
You wanted that one dissent, right?
I did. It would be good for the film. I didn't want to, I wanted some, conflict. But he had changed his mind, and I asked him, why do you believe the kids now and you didn't then? And he said the consistency of the stories over time.
Yeah.
And he had initially thought they had gotten together and made it up and whatever. He was the only teacher that really thought that. Didn't work with most of those kids, so he wasn't really close to those kids. But anyway, he had changed his mind over time, and that fascinated me too, because I was expecting to have a really interesting interview with him.
You got to get that dissent. But I guess the silver lining is, well, it's everybody who was there tells it like it was, and hasn't changed their story, and that kind of proves, I guess it doesn't prove, but it's really strong evidence that it's an accurate depiction of the incident. And can you share, is there any footage from the incident? Is there any footage from the incident, and do you have that in the film?
From when it happened itself? No, because there were no cameras. This is 1994 in Zimbabwe, so technology was nowhere. I mean,
nobody had like a VHS cam,
I mean, some very wealthy people did, but it was very, I don't know if they even went to the school, but some of the other witnesses outside of the Ariel school, because it wasn't just Ariel school, did have some VHS recorders that captured some real footage. Right in the beginning of the film, you'll see 2 pieces of footage. That's from that week.
Wow.
So they're technologically. I don't think there was a camera at that school at that time.
Yeah, but you've got all those drawings, the drawings that all the kids did. I think those are so neat. Just their little perceptions, that how they perceived things. And I mean, you don't get much more of an honest drawing than from a kid.
Yeah.
Even with,
in their own way, it's like because of how they view.
Yeah, they see. Yeah, they all see it in their own way, and it's just an incredible story. And congratulations again to you for putting this all together, and all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. Literal blood, sweat, and tears. I'm sure that,
and my crew too. I gotta say, Christopher Seward, Rebecca Rideout, Rick DeGrees, Ann Krasnowski, Nikki Carter. I mean, and so many other people who helped.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes when I talk, I forget when I'm in conversation, but boy, thank God for the help of really good people.
Yeah. I mean, you guys went through hell making this thing, and it's just incredible. Do you keep in touch with the BBC reporter?
He passed away in 2011.
He did? Okay.
Right after about 6 or 8 months after I interviewed him.
Okay.
He was hilarious. That guy.
He seemed like a cool guy. Yeah.
He was so funny. Yeah.
He seems like a cool one. Now, what about, is Dr. Mack still around?
No, Dr. Mack passed away in 2004.
Did you get a chance to interview him?
No, it was in 2003. I asked him to. I wanted to interview him at that time.
Yeah.
And we had conversations about it. We had meetings about it, and then he passed away.
Yeah. So, I mean, he put his neck out there.
He did
for those kids, and that's pretty incredible, because he had a pretty astute career. To put your neck out on the line like that. I mean, for those kids, it seems like that's why he did it, was for the kids.
He did it for a lot of other people as well, but I think when he saw that happening, I think that affected him because he had not really I think he had dealt with a couple children at that point who had these experiences, but this was a schoolyard. This was multiple people from a foreign country that
Dozens. Yeah.
didn't even have the proper words to describe this thing. They didn't have the Western culture words, like flying
saucer. Yeah.
they didn't have that. So that gave it a lot more credibility, to be honest,
Yeah. Well, so folks out there, again, go to arielphenomenon.com. Please check this out. It's a gripping story. The work you've done, I think, is really cool, and congratulations. That's just awesome. What about your own experiences? We've got a few minutes left, and I'm wondering if you've had any of your own personal experiences with UAPs, UFOs, aliens, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
Can you share a story?
Well, I don't want to get onto my story because I want to tell these kids' story, But yeah, it's something that really left an impact on me.
Yeah.
Definitely. You asked about, I remember you were going to say if I'd seen ghosts.
Yeah.
My brother died 2.5 years ago. And that man came to see me. And I'm not somebody that, I haven't seen ghosts or, that was a pretty transitional experience for me to realize that there's life after death. Because there's no way that man could have done what he did after he was dead in such synchronicity and such. It's just that was profound. That was the first time I actually went to a medium. And that medium, she was really recommended by one of the best people I know. Boy, that was an experience too.
Yeah, reading can be quite the experience. So were things validated for you in the reading?
Oh, completely. Things she couldn't. She didn't even know my name. She didn't know anything about me. And I made it sure I wanted it that way. I was like, well, let's see how good you are. Because I'm a mechanic, really, but at heart, I'm like a nuts and bolts guy,
Yeah.
But wow. Yeah, I had my eyes open. Miss my brother dearly, but there's part of me knows he's not really fully gone. That's he's just somewhere else that we don't understand. That's how I sort of look at it.
Just somewhere else where we don't necessarily see him, but they're there. In your experience, can I ask, did you hear his voice? Did he talk to you? Did you talk back?
The first few times he showed up, he didn't say a word.
Okay.
Stared at me and in these very interesting things I could not have thought of. And the things that when he did start to say things over time, they were caring things. Like, how does he know that? I don't know how to explain it to people, but all of a sudden you're sitting doing something and then all of a sudden you feel a presence in the room.
Yeah.
Unmistakably that person. And, and it just happened over and I wasn't thinking about him. I was working on a project or doing something. I was busy. And I don't know how to explain that. I hope people don't think I'm weird at all because
not on this show.
that really happens. And I think it happens to a lot of people who don't talk about that. Like a lot of things we don't talk about, unfortunately. People call it weird or strange. It's, we all have strange, every single person on this planet has things happen to them that they can't explain, but we just don't talk about it.
Yeah, and a lot of that is a generational thing,
Yeah, that's true. The younger 10,
they talk about it all over the place.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a generational thing, and more and more people are they're talking about it. They're
great.
When there's conferences, those are great opportunities for people to go and they can talk to other people who had shared experiences, or similar thinking, and you just getting other perspectives. So being able to talk about it, and I thank you for sharing that
Thanks.
that experience too, because it's so personal for each person, and it's got to be cool to know that your brother's got your back.
Yeah, I dedicated the film to my brother, who I lost 2.5 years ago, and to my cousin Colin John, who was my other brother. He died 3 months ago. Like,
I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, I'm not trying to. It's just reality,
Yeah.
and but it felt so good to dedicate the film to two men I loved, and grew up with, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and what an accomplishment too. I mean, the 14 years, your dedication and everything, and I just can't stop thinking about the kids that witnessed that, and as adults now to have their story told um, in a way that's succinct, and um, it just communicates what they felt, what they've gone through, and everything. That's something to really be proud of, and it's so cool. I hope everyone goes and watches this, because it's such a neat story and an amazing incident. I mean, will we ever have something like that again, you think?
it's rare. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the other thing while I was working on it. I'm like, my God, this I've never even heard of anything close to this incident. Um, but it'll be good to get the kids, the witnesses,
Yeah.
on the shows with me more once we get break through the barrier, hopefully soon, to get to mainstream. That's what we're
Yeah.
trying, so we can because I really want them to speak. They got more to say than I do. I
Right.
can I know the entire story and how everything happened, but they're far more interesting to talk to, and they're great. I love these kids. They're I call them kids, but they're
They're adults now, but yeah, sure.
yeah, they're adults, but but yeah, I can't wait to hear them speak, and also hopefully the ones that wouldn't go public, that they'll speak.
Yeah. Yeah,
um
it gives them a stepping off point,
yeah,
to feel okay. Maybe people won't think I am as crazy if all these other people come forward. And that's a huge part right there that I didn't even think about, is others coming forward, because you're putting this out there. And
I hope
I
so too.
hope I hope you can do some sort of update, you know, uh, if you get more people contacting you that want to come forward, I hope to see some sort of update on that.
Yeah,
If it's included in like a bonus thing, or whatever. That Michael Beers is saying he's really been looking forward to you coming on the show. Thanks to you and your team jumping on board. Appreciated. Big shout out, and looks like he owes you a favor. So,
oh
Mike, hold
wow.
him to it. Hold
Yeah,
him to it.
sweet. Yeah,
um, but a few other
thanks,
people.
Mike.
Yeah, fascinating conversation. Such an amazing show. Thanks, you guys, for commenting, and it is an amazing story. And Randall, I want to thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. Because it's like you said, it's not always easy to talk about,
Yeah,
strange things. So,
and we gotta,
uh,
I think we're in a new day and age where we should, or not should is the wrong word, but why can't we just be honest?
right there, you
What
go.
we've seen without attacking each other.
Be honest and
That's the
be
only way
open.
we're gonna learn.
Yeah, and be open to other people's ideas
Yeah,
and perceptions, and understand, and be in other people's shoes sometimes.
very true.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
The hour just flew by here. It
Good.
always does. Always does. And folks, again, that's arielphenomenon.com, and that's Ariel. And I know we had it up on the show banner. There it is. Everybody watching, go to that website right now. Check out this incredible story. Let's help get this thing go mainstream, and because it needs to get out there, and I'll do whatever I can to help, and hopefully we can have you on again in the future for any sort of updates or any other projects you're working on.
Appreciate it, Pete.
You're a busy guy. So let's keep in touch and get you back on here again. That'd be great.
I appreciate the questions, Pete, too. You had some very good questions.
Thanks. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I kind of just shoot from my hip usually.
Yeah, you're straight. I like it. You're like a straight shooter. I like that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And to everybody out there, thanks for tuning in and commenting. And again, go check out arielphenomenon.com. Go watch it. Let's check this thing out. Let's help him get mainstream on it and get the story out there. Join me next week. Again, it's a pre-recorded episode with Jessica Linato from the Bay Area. She's an astrologer and a medium, and we actually talk about mediumship a little more in astrology, but we also get to the bottom of Mercury retrograde, because you hear everyone talking about it. So we finally get to the bottom of what the heck that means. So join me next week here on WLTKDB.com. And I leave every show with a toast, of course, just to remember every week you should be take some time each week to be present. That I'm not even going to say the saying because we're out of time. But anyways, take some time each week to be present, folks. We'll see you next week. Check out all the other shows on WLTKDB.com. Thanks.